What's up, everybody? Hey, this is my friend Sip. Because you're on early, you'll get to know why I call her Sip in a little while.
Okay.
Hey, tell your friends we're going to talk tonight. You're going to hear a different perspective than we normally have. It's going to be a lot different. Look, Bailey showed up. Look there. You see that, Sip?
Hey, Bailey.
And yeah, if you like our live, I think it helps more people know that we're here. We're talking about if you are the parent of an adult child or if you're an adult child that has a parent. So we have a huge net tonight. Look at all these people joining us. We're glad that you're here. You're gonna be the first one to hear about a new class that we're about to offer that Sip and I have been working on, and I'm really, really excited about it. I'm going to tell you about a free download that we've got for you tonight. I've been watching some TikTok fights.
Yeah.
In the comments, little TikTok fights. So the topic we're talking about, it's raising up some emotion.
For sure.
And you know me, I'm a peacemaker. Like, I'm not confrontational.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting to read these fights. So this anyway, for you guys that are new, don't know us yet, well, this is my friend. Her name is Montana, but I call her Sip because when she came to intern at our organization, not at Gobi, but at the church that I was leading, one of my fellow execs thought her name was Dakota. And so he called her Dakota, and that became a big joke. And so then I decided to call her Montana. Her name was Montana. I decided to call her Mississippi because my sweet kids live in Mississippi, and it's a place I love, and I love her. And it kind of shortened it to Sip. So that's why I call her Sip. My phone, when she calls, it says Sip. I'm trying to get my grandkids to call her Sip, my granddaughters, but they won't. They call her, what do they call you?
Miss Tana.
Miss Tana.
Yeah,
Which is much cooler, but not as awesome. And so we are going to talk tonight. I'm gonna give you a couple observations, and then we're just gonna spend some time. I want you to hear a little bit of Montana's story, because as we talk about relationships between parents and their adult kids. One of the big buzz phrases out there is this no contact rule. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who aren't as hip as I am, even though I'm old, about no contact rule, basically it's just kind of a hip way of saying that, hey man, we decided that this relationship is toxic enough that I don't want to be a part of it anymore. And so I've met parents all over the country, like in person at our events that are crushed because their kids have just sent them letters. I've read several of them saying, basically, you're not going to see my kids. We don't want you to come in the house. Don't call us. And so we spent a lot of time as talking about from a parent's perspective. Like for us, that's worst case scenario. Although there are times, everybody wants to talk in extremes, right, Montana? But there are times that the child might need to do that, your adult child. There are times you may need to do that from your adult child. But what I have been kind of proponing, is that a word, proponing? I've been a proponent of, how's that?
Perfect.
Look it up, buddy, proponing's a word. Is like we want to do lots of work to never get to that spot. Sure. Right? It's like, I think, and I'm going to make a blanket statement, okay, so just give me some grace if you don't know me. What I hear in a lot of people's voices is out of their pain, it is a first resort, not a last resort. Mm. Because it's such hard work to set boundaries, to have clarifying conversations, all of these things that we teach that are a healthy part of these relationships, right? And so I thought it would be great, our team thought it would be great, if you guys heard just a little bit of Montana's story as from the perspective, because you're always getting the perspective of me as a adult parent of an adult child, to an adult child who maybe grew up in a different kind of home than you and I did, but she, perspective is her reality. And so, Montana, tell us just a little bit about, in whatever way you're comfortable, tell a little bit about what it was like growing up in your home.
Yeah, definitely a non-traditional household. I kind of always talk about having multiple sets of parents because of, parents not being married or not together anymore, and adoption, and just kind of lots of different reasons to have lots of different people that I relate to in this like parental role. And it was, I hate to say or hate to make any like overarching statements about what it was like, other than saying that there was challenges, and like of course there's challenges in every household, but definitely some challenges that resulted in me having this boundary set in place with them pretty much right when I turned 18, actually a little bit before then. That ultimately was, I can't be in a relationship with you anymore. But I think one thing that's really important that I have learned, because now that's been almost 10 years, is that it doesn't always have to stay that way.
Right.
And it hasn't. And we've kind of gone back and forth lots of different times of, okay, let's try to be in a relationship together, and then, all right, this just isn't working. We need some space from one another. And there is a bit of like toxicness involved in that, but I also think there is, everything in life is combined of two things, like there can be toxicity and there can be health in it at the same moment. So it's just was often a balance, and has been a balance of how do I remain content in myself, and more importantly, or just as importantly, surround myself with other people that can sort of at least attempt to fill the ache of not having a relationship with my parents.
Because you have family.
I do, yeah.
But not by blood,
right.
I mean, those of us who have not that, as damaging, or deficient a relationship, I have. Which, by the way, I don't know where to look here. If I look here, I feel like I'm looking at you, but I look over this way, people think I'm looking at the ground. I don't know, but... so I'll just look at you here. Okay. I have family I have a great family. But I have family that's not blood that I'm as close to as I am my family. And I think that's something God gives us.
Totally.
And you have that. But what I think is interesting about what you're saying, and I'm wondering if there's somebody who got on just to hear this, is that, like at 18, when you said, hey man, it's not healthy for me to be in this relationship, it's not the final word. It's like, we want everything to be final, right? Like, okay, that's it. And like you said, two things can be true at the same time. And a part of this is understanding that's a step that you have to take, but that doesn't have to mean it's the last move. And if you see some change and some things happen, I would say this, and you correct me, Sip and I know each other well, so I know this already, but it's like she had that boundary because she didn't want to be damaged, if you will, by any toxicity in her home. That's a fair way of saying it, I think, for most of us, right? But like, I'm listening to some of you, just be honest, and like, you're still as mad you are 10 years later as you were 10 years ago. Like that relationship is still damaging you, but you're not, like the no contact didn't change things. Your heart is still like you're angry.
Right. And
that's what I love about Montana is you can hear it in her heart that her hesitancy is man, because honor is a big thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But two things can be true at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And I just think about, like, you work in lots of our areas, but one of them is you help us in some of our social media areas. So you've read a lot of this stuff, and we were reading some stuff just before we began about I said, man, that's just, bless her heart, she's angry. Mm-hmm. What would you say to somebody who is reading between the lines, because they're growing up in the same kind of what you are generally describing was like in your home. What would you say to like look in that camera and say, hey, if you're like me, here's something I want you to know?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is something that a good friend of mine told me just the other day, and it was, don't make any long-term decisions based on short-term emotions.
Mm.
And I think that there's 100% exceptions to that rule. Sometimes your short-term emotions are required. It's God telling you a boundary has been crossed, a boundary has been broken, it's time to make a change. However, the flip side of that is this impulsivity that can often come up when we're angry or hurt or damaged. And it's just, it's like, take a pause, call somebody else. And I'm like so thankful to have people like you, Toby, like a lot of other people in my life. I think my friend Jennifer is on here as well, that are very much spiritual parents to me, that I'm like, okay, I can just call one of them when I'm like in the middle of my crisis, and whether it's listening or advice or just like crying with me, they're going to be there for me. And it like allows me to take a breath and take a step back from my situation and really analyze what the next right step is, rather than just what, the anger is telling me I need to do.
Yeah. That's so good. It's don't let a short-term emotion drive you to make a long-term decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the long game, right? And it's you may come to the point that Montana came to. That's what I'm trying to say in some of these 30-second TikToks where people are like, trying to figure out what my dress is, think come hit me. And it's like, there's always exceptions to everything we talk about. But if you're a parent of an adult child and you're listening to this, you go, oh, this isn't for me. We're talking from the kid's perspective. Listen, seek first to understand and then be understood. That was a Stephen Covey principle that I think, it's like, listen to what Montana is saying. And I think for me, so many times the defense mechanism is, well, let me say what you're not doing, instead of taking a moment and saying, as a parent, hey man, where's a place I can help? Where's a place that I can add more value? Where's some shifts I need to make? And what's my part? What part of the street do I need to be working? I'm going to mow my side of the yard kind of thing. And it's interesting too that Montana, you talk about, about relationships and having other spiritual mothers and dads and aunts and uncles and big brothers and big sisters. Because one of the things we teach here at Gobi is understanding that your enemy is isolation, right? And we all in pain. I've had this conversation with you recently that you get in pain and what you want to do is pull back. And yet, usually the very thing you don't want to do is the thing you have to do if you want to stay mentally healthy and guard your heart. And you got to get connected and hear other voices in your life. And so I'm proud of watching you do that and hearing the hard things sometimes. I think of some of the other things that go be kind of foundational principles for us about in relationship with others, and about getting the physical part of getting outside and being careful about what your diet is, because it's easy to get in that pattern that just perpetuates, right? What's something else? Is there anything else you think that we talk about a lot that you go, yeah, that's really true for me?
I was actually writing something for Gobi today. That is in...
Look at her, she's writing something.
It'll be sent out at some point in time, I think, but I was reminded of, we talk about Gobi a lot, but I also hold very close to my heart, Not Yet.
Mm-hmm.
And something that you said one time was, in reference to 2 Corinthians, when Paul is talking about the thorn in his flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you, vividly remember being in service on a Thursday night, and you saying, I begged for this to go away for, 30 years. I'm still here, still dealing with this. And the fact that, like, yes, God gives us just the strength to go on, but what you said the other day on a TikTok too was that you don't realize you're an overcomer until you have something to overcome.
Yep.
And I just thought that was so, it's very fitting for my life currently and many times in the past too, of just like, yeah, I wish we didn't have to overcome all these things. Like, I wish I didn't struggle. I wish, there's a million things I could wish for, but the fact is, like, in order to identify as an overcomer, I have to overcome something. And that principle, just like that standing truth, I think about on a daily basis, and is why I wrote it in an email today.
Yeah, she's talking about the first book I wrote called Not Yet, which is the first thing Gobi released. I think we released it before Gobi was Gobi.
Yeah.
It's now under the Gobi umbrella, but it's just lessons over the last 20 years I learned about battling for your mental health. And that book, if you're interested, go to beagobi.com, or that'd be the best place for you to get it if you want it. But it's really, Bailey sent us in a question that someone asked, and she's seen over and over again, is about this, how a lot of times it's easy in pain to fall victim to the victim mentality, right? Mm-hmm. And there's two sides of that. You would say, what you just said is, hey, you're not a victim. You still get to overcome. That's what you would say to a fellow adult child out there.
Yeah.
And what I would say to a parent is, be careful in dealing the card of, oh, they're just playing the victim, without seeing the pain behind what's causing them to be that way, right?
Sure.
Because you answered, I mean, as you were talking, but it was sending it, you or it just came through, you were answering that question about, like, refusing to be a victim. It is hard. Your life has been hard. All of our lives have been hard, but your life has been hard in unique ways that many of us, haven't experienced. And yet you go, hey man, I got to overcome something if I'm going to be an overcomer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super easy to fall into the victim mentality for me. Like, very often, and like you mentioned earlier, it usually is directly tied, or at least correlated, to isolation.
Mm-hmm.
I get in isolation and I start to spiral, and I start to think, like, why me, mm-hmm. why me? And there is some, of course, validity in that. If you feel like you're a victim, it's probably because you've been victimized at some point.
Right.
However, that doesn't need to become your identity. And that's what can happen, and that's what can lead to just resentment and anger. And there's nothing wrong with feeling those feelings, but again, if it becomes, like, attached to your soul,
then
it's going to be so much harder to heal and grow. And hopefully, I think a common misconception is that adult children that have no contact with their parents never want to be in contact with them ever again.
Right.
The truth is, I wish every single day I could talk to my mom, but I can't. Like, I just can't right now. Right.
But there was a time you could.
There was a time I could, and I really believe there will be a time I can again.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the time you could. What got you the place you said, okay, I'm going to try again? Is it because you were in a healthy enough place?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So see, that's the thing. This is what I love about this kid, okay? She didn't even know how much wisdom God gives her, because what she's saying is, like, this thing was about me being healthy. It wasn't about what she was doing, right? So you, in pain, like, you're doing a lot better than you think you are, girl, because in pain, you're still examining where you are instead of, which is the hard part. The hard part is looking in the mirror. It's not hard to look out the window and say, they're not doing this and this and this, right?
Right.
And I think that's the truth, like, for a child and for a parent. For a parent, it's easy for me to go, you've never been grateful, and you and you use these deals, and I'm looking out the window. But the hard work is to look in the mirror and go, hey, where is the kernel of truth in this for me? And where is it? Yeah, maybe your kid is playing the victim. But what do you need to do to be in a healthy place for yourself? That is wisdom beyond your years. in these relationships that you talk about, you have, and I know most of them with adults. Where have you found most of those?
Well, I mean, truthfully, most of them I found in church.
Yeah.
But there also is like great resources like ACA, which is adult children. It's adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. So it's kind of an overarching term for anybody who has a difficult relationship with their parents in some way. And it's a 12-step program, and it's super amazing. Like, I have nothing but great things to say about it. I've met amazing people, connected with people that, I didn't feel like I would be able to find because, we kind of like grow up in the South where everybody's a little bit more like, we just hush hush and not talk about our problems. So support groups like that are really helpful, and honestly, it's just been being vulnerable. And what I like go back to every time is what I truly believe, and the act of confession is meant to be, is actually just the act of being intensely vulnerable with somebody else.
Scary, isn't it?
It's so scary. It's like, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, pretty much. But it opened up to like a beautiful, beautiful relationship that I'll forever be grateful for.
Yeah, and I mean, we could go on and on with that. I want people to be able to, I want to give them through this what the gift that you have been. So many of us that just watch like this balance of honor and two things being true at the same time. I want to be honoring, but that doesn't mean I'm going to push something under an excuse away behavior. That was my thing. I could have saved a whole boat. I bought one counselor, over a year of sessions. I couldn't get to the place, to me, to admit that there was something maybe that was missing. Seemed dishonorable or disloyal. And it took a year to get to that place. And yet that's where the freedom comes, is when you go, hey man, two things are true at one time. How many times have you heard me say, because you sit and listen to me, you have to way too much. I have to pay you to do it. But it's like, parents do the best they can with what they have, and it's never going to be enough. Yeah. And that's why Jesus makes up the difference, right? And I usually say it to adult parents, parents of adult kids, or in our workshops, parents of even, kids that are growing up, and they're so regretful of, and I'm like, man, the best time to make a change is today. Yeah. Nobody's perfect. And so you focus on your health, you focus on being the healthiest version of you can be, and that's where the boundaries get set. One of the great things Montana does for Gobi is she saves me hours of time by filming most of the stuff we do. And I do think, Jennifer, that parental estrangement is specific to this kind of millennial Gen Z age. I think I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me finish what I was going to say. But she films a lot of this stuff, and so she hears me talking like I just finished one of the installments of this class I'm going to tell you about in a moment on boundaries. And I think some of us, we see boundaries as restrictive when that's really the greatest act of love out there. Is clarity is kindness, and there's boundaries that protect your heart, protect your child's heart. It's a good thing to have boundaries. Yeah, I'm getting this question. I'm starting to do that. I need my meds wearing off, but it's, do you think that parental estrangement is like this it's unique to this generation? I think, yeah, I do. I think that for if you're the parent of if you're Bailey, if you're the parent of an elementary age kid, your kids there are options that they know about that we never thought about, they know the word suicidal ideation in 4th grade, and I learned it like 3 years ago. You never heard it. And so they think about things that we just never considered, right? And I think that's what this is for this generation, is this whole no contact thing. when it started gaining steam, then people started going, maybe that is an option for me. This kind of, now kids have been estranged. Adult kids have been estranged from their parents for years, but it wasn't the kind of the in thing to do. And there's a good side to that. I mean, you were country before country was cool. I mean, this was something you were guarding your heart with setting that clear boundary long before anybody was talking about it. But now I think your generation thinks about it more than ever because everybody's talking about it. Yeah. And so, like, I don't know, I couldn't even tell who the lady was that was asking me the question, but sometimes what I get in these workshops is, well, do you think that's just a kid today thing? Well, it may be a big thing among kids, but it doesn't mean it's not a problem, right? It's like, it's not, we can't just go, oh, those kids today. I'm not saying, ma'am, you were saying that, but I've heard that, oh, these kids today. And it's like, I mean, I could show you book, chapter, verse where the Bible says, man, we need to understand context and understand the reality of the world we live in. And that is the world we live in. You know, my dream, Montana, is for you, for me, whatever twists and turns your relational journey takes, is that you end up being friends, like a friend with your parent. Like for me, I want to be friends with my adult kids. I want to build a healthy friendship. And so that's what I've been working so hard on, is this class, because I can't find many of them out there. I can't find a lot of information out there in our audience, and here is blown up parents of adult kids. And like, I want to help us learn the skills to build relationships with our kids, because we may have parented for 25 years and we know how to parent kids, but how do you build a relationship with your adult child, a friendship that's healthy and growing? I think that's what God designed, and that's what this course that we're putting together, we have out soon, within a month, I think, isn't that right? We're going to release it, and you'll be the first to know. If you go to the link in our bio, I'll send you just a little taste of what we're doing, and we'll make sure that you get notified as soon as this course releases. I think it's gonna help a lot of us who have the heart, but we need to kind of be reminded of some strategies. Yeah. You said, as we were talking the other day about this concept of what would it look like, and I said, I saw your eyes widen because it was like, I never thought about that. That I said, if with my adult friendships, I'm never going to go to their house at 9:00 at night without letting them know I'm coming, just showing up. But with my kid, we may think that's okay. That's a boundary crossing, because you're not thinking of it like an adult relationship. I wouldn't, every time that my friend called, I wouldn't tell them how long it had been since they called me the last time. Yet I hear all the time from people, I don't want to call my parents because all I'm going to do is get worn out that I haven't called more. Yeah. And so it's just building those skills. And some of it is pretty self-evident. And some of it, I think, will be some things for you to think about. We're going to give you some tools to help you kind of track where you are on the journey. And it's going to be fun. So go to the link in our bio when we get done. Anything else, though, we try not to go way too long on these things. Montana, anything else you would share with these folks? Anything else you'd want to leave everybody with?
I think there's so much value in friendships with people that are in the same. You always talk about having someone in front of you, someone beside you, and someone behind you. And it's been really valuable to be friends with friends that are beside me, like going through similar things. And it's been important to have the people that are in front of me to hopefully speak some life into them, even though that's traditionally their role in my life. Is like some of my closest friends, it's like, man, I see their kids start to talk back to them, or have maybe a bit of an attitude or whatever, and I just look at their parents and I'm like, thank you for allowing your kid to have a voice. Because that's what I hear from my friends that are also no contact with their parents, is like, I can't even speak to my parents because everything I say is talking back. And I saw this TikTok the other day that was like, when are parents going to realize that talking back is how you have a conversation? Like, there's just the rules of conversing with another human being. And it's hard because there's not a lot of information out there, and there's not like proper boundary conversations and everything that you've said before. And I just, if I can offer any sort of encouragement to parents of adult kids that are estranged from them, it's that, like, you know, I pray every day for my parents that this doesn't have to be forever. And all I can do is work on myself and work my side of the street, as you say, and focus on that, and just kind of like, I have to leave the rest to time, because time ultimately does heal a lot of things I've found in my life. And the waiting game is hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I find myself repeating, not just in the Gobi things we do, but just in when I'm speaking in other places, is that, like, you need a picture more than a principle. That you know, kids become what they see, not what you say. And I think I kept thinking about this as you were talking. It's like, man, what a gift for some of you who've had just crappy, I don't know another way to put it, just been crappy relational encounters with your parents as adults. Like, this is a picture of what's possible. That, like, your heart doesn't have to get hard. You can recognize deficiencies and yet honor and pray blessing on your family. That's a picture I wanted you to see. You know, for some of you that are adult parents of the adult kids that are watching, I hope you hear what she's saying. And yeah, this may be a time for you to sit down and just write your child an apology letter with no conditions, right? I've said this to hundreds of parents that if I don't know what to do, write them a letter. Well, I don't know if they'll read it. That's not your side of the street. Your side of the street is to say it, and then you don't own the results of that. I know it's hard, but it's what you do. But I would write that letter. You know why? Because you're going to release some of that in your heart, and it's going to give God room to make you a better you, which is the only thing you can control anyway. I just want you to see this picture, man. Like, some of you, it breaks my heart that you don't have a relationship with your adult child. I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine, honestly. I'm one of you. I mean, grace of God, that is not my experience. But to know that your child, even that's not with you, is praying for you, I don't know if your mom knows that. She may have no idea or think about that. But man, that's a picture of hope for a lot of people, Montana. That, I mean, look, all of it. Here's the secret. Let me tell you something nobody knows. All of us think we jacked it up. All of us as parents. Every parent, I don't know a parent that wants to, like, go, hey, come do it like me. I talk to everybody who thinks they jacked it up. I think that tell someone that I feel like I'm disappointing my kids in something and I don't know how to fix it. And I think, like, just the picture of how the grace of God, it gives me hope. I think that's one of the reasons I love you so much. It's just, you're a picture of that for me. And you know, not claiming you to be perfect, but you're our picture. And, you know, and it's the pictures where the frames are cracking a little bit that make them the most beautiful pics, I think, for most of us. So, I mean, that's my heart for you guys. That you could get some hope, you know, that it's not black and white. Two things can be true at the same time. And you can be, nothing is final, you know, nothing's final. And so I want to encourage you to, as we sign off here in just a moment, is that a word? Can we say sign off? Is that old people?
Sounds good to
so
me.
We get done here in just a moment. Man, go ahead and sign up to get this notice. Let me send you this little gift and to be the first to know about this course for raising adult kids, and give you some practical things you can start trying in your life. you really helped me, by the way. Whoever the sweet lady was that asked about writing the letter, I think we're gonna do like a bonus thing on just what does the letter look like? What would like what would I feel like I'd want to say, and what should I say, right? Because parenting adult kids, it's like you get set free when you figure out you don't have to say everything you're thinking, right? Like you can actually write from your heart with the receiver in mind. And so we'll let's do one of those. You want to remind me? We'll
Sounds good.
do some stuff on that. So man, take care. God bless. Love you at Goby. Any way we can help you, go to beagoby, beagoby.com. Lots of free resources there. That's where Not Yet, the book is. It's where our Toby the Goby, the book for kids, is. Lots of stuff that we have there you can find out about. We'd love to help you. So God bless. Love you guys. Take care. Talk to you soon.